This episode of Nintendo Expansion Pass is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our family of podcasts, head over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia or search for us on the Patreon app on your smart device. Thanks for helping us build something better. Hello everybody, welcome to Ranking Nintendo here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host, the enlightened, excited, and electric Eddie V. Joining me for this episode of the Pokemon Starters, this Pokemon edition of Ranking Nintendo. He is a person who's very festive when it comes to franchises. You know, if you guys have not checked it out, the Franchise Festival podcast, you really do, because they just wrapped up their discussion about Resident Evil, and it's so good. Please welcome the one, the only, Christian Skipper. Hello, Christian. Hi.
Hello, Ed. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I apologize way in advance for missing the Sagebrush discussion for Talk the Walk.
Oh, it's been a minute.
Yes, I wanted to be on that episode and talking about that game. I have my thoughts, but so that's already read. So thank you for joining us. Now, everybody, I have to take a moment and take this person in, because he's the Pokemon expert when it comes to all things Pokemon. And I'm telling you, he knows his Pokemon from each game. Everybody, please welcome the bold and the beautiful Benjamin Aquino. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and share some Pokemon knowledge and some Pokemon fun, because I could talk about Pokemon honestly for hours and hours on end. So this is perfect for me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. Yes, everybody, we are going to be ranking some Pokemon starters. This episode, we're doing the Game Boy and Game Boy Color of Pokemon Red and Blue and Pokemon Gold and Silver. Before we get into everything, everybody, Benjamin, I have to ask you, how did you get into the Pokemon series?
Well, honestly, when Pokemon started on TV, I don't even remember the service it was broadcast on, but ever since it started on TV, I was hooked. That intro was amazing. Seeing like Rapidash running through and Arcanine, and seeing Gengar fighting. I just love the idea of monsters basically being brought to life, being used to battling one another, and I just thought that was amazing, and it just hooked me from there. I honestly became a 100% fan, and I never looked back since it originally came on the TV. So that's really how it all started for me. Just to anime. Well, I guess it's a cartoon more than an anime technically, but yeah. But since that series came on the TV, I have been hooked.
All right, Christian, how did you get into the Pokemon series?
You know, I don't quite remember what tuned me into it. It might have been a Nintendo Power magazine, but my entry point was the games, I think, because Nintendo Power had this feature on it, and I had only played platformers before that. So Pokemon ended up being my first role-playing game, and the idea of this vast open world where you could go around and collect monsters and battle them and so forth was really engaging to me. And then from there, I do distinctly remember I got the starter pack of the card game on the day it came out in my local region. I was bugging the employees at the store ahead of time. Bless their hearts. And so I was kind of in on that day one. And then I fell off of the card game over the years, and I sort of fell off of the game series and came back to it. The show I paid attention to a little bit, but fell off of that pretty quickly. I think the games are the main through line to Pokemon for me.
Yeah, I know for me, just like you, Benjamin, it was the anime, and hearing the theme song. So, in here we called it Channel 50, but for people who don't know, it was UPN.
It was UPN for me too.
Yes, because it was at 7 o'clock in the morning before I had to go to school, and I had to be at school at 8. So I would watch Pokemon and then get dressed and then hurry up and run off to school and everything. So when that happened, my mom was asking me like what I got it for Christmas, and she asked me which one because I told her about Pokemon and everything, and I was just like, if you see this game, get Pokemon Blue. Because I found out they had a red and blue version, and blue was my color. I love blue, and so she got it because it had Blastoise on it, to represent the blue on it, or Squirt, yeah, Blastoise on it. And when she got it, it was my 9 o'clock game before I went to bed. I would throw on Montel Williams, let his talk show go while playing Pokemon grinding. And then when the 10 o'clock comedies came, I knew that okay, I gotta put the game down. It's time to go to bed for work. I mean, for school and everything.
We're two peas in a pod, Ed. I really remember playing that game for like that hour before bed.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the time to play Pokemon, and I played it for like a year straight.
What about you, Benjamin? Did you have a set time when you played Pokemon?
I can't really remember if I had a set time, but I definitely also chose Pokemon Blue. But my reasoning was not because I had much of a choice. My brother and I are 11 months apart, and he was interested in Pokemon as well. And he got to choose first, basically. So he chose Pokemon Red because of Charizard. So I was left with Blue. Although wasn't a bad choice because I really did like Blastoise in the design and water Pokemon in general. But I probably would have picked Pokemon Red, to be honest, but we weren't both going to get the same game. So I ended up with Pokemon Blue, and I did put a lot of time into that game. I just can't remember how much time I had dedicated to that. Our parents were pretty nice with us and allowed us to play games as long as we weren't, we're doing good in our studies and we weren't causing a ruckus. We could kind of play games whenever. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Christian? Which one did you get?
This is a Pokemon Blue heavy episode because Blue was what I got as well.
Yes.
I don't remember why exactly. I think it just came down to me thinking that turtles were neat. And so I got the one with the turtle on the cover. But a buddy of mine got red, so we traded back and forth, of course.
Yes. Well, everybody, we're gonna get into the history of Pokemon. Pokemon is developed by Game Freak and published by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. It was created by Satoshi Tajiri and Ken Sugimori. Pokemon Red and Green was released in Japan on February 26, 1996. It was known as Pocket Monsters Red and Green. Pocket Monsters Blue was released in Japan on October 15, 1996 and October 10th, 1999. In North America, it was Pokemon was released on September 29th, 1998, Australia on October 23rd, 1998, and in Europe on October 5th, 1999. Pokemon Gold and Silver were released in Japan on November 21st, 1999, Australia on October 13th, 2000, North America on October 15th, 2000, and Europe on April 6th, 2001. It was also released in South Korea on April 24th, 2002. Red and Blue were on the Game Boy, while Silver and Gold were on the Game Boy Color. Pokemon Red and Blue sold 31.38 million copies worldwide. Silver and Gold sold 23 million copies, and Satoru Iwata helped with programming on Silver and Gold. And that
Can you imagine those poor souls? Those 9 million, what is that? 8 to 9 million souls who played Red and Blue, but not Gold and Silver? What did they miss?
No, they missed a lot.
Gold and Silver was I think it's probably, I don't know if it's still top tier as number one as the Pokemon game, but I remember when I think it was 3DS when they made it downloadable for Pokemon Gold and Silver, and everybody, I think it was like what, $10 or something, I think, on the eShop.
Something like that.
Right. when they mentioned that on the Pokemon Direct, you should have seen how quickly everybody was buying that game.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, I'd never played Pokemon Crystal, and when they re-released it, that was my first time playing it, truth be told.
Oh wow.
oh
Yeah.
wow, yes. Um, did you guys Benjamin, did you play Gold or Silver? And which one did
Yes.
you get?
So just for context, I have played every mainline series Pokemon game, always upon release. Um, but in that case, when it comes to the version exclusives, I've never had both of them generally, only more
Mhm.
recently. At that point, I chose Silver.
Oh, you were
Mhm.
silver. I was
Yes.
gold. I was a gold one because I felt gold was so rich and it's so expensive, and so I went with gold. I I never went to the Pokemon for the exclusive Pokemon like the legendary one. I never went for that. But just like you, Benjamin, I now when I buy the Pokemon on Switch, I just buy the double pack because I'm like, I want both games. Uh I think I didn't. Oh, Diamond and Pearl, the one that also came to Switch, I bought both of them because it was just like I want to make sure that if someone has the other version and I got the one that they need, I'm going to play that. And then if they need to trade, bam, we need to trade. Because
You're a team player.
yes,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yes, and plus I could buy my Pokemon game, so I'm happy about that. I remember actually, me and you, Benjamin, we played the when we played, I think it was Sword. We was playing, and we had the Gigamax battle.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
I'm trying to think if I can remember because I put so much time to that. I actually, even though I played a little bit of Sword afterwards, my main game was Shield. That's the
with
one I
Shield.
started with.
Okay,
Shield, yes.
okay. I knew it was. I knew we played because we did that four-player battle against one of the Pokemon, the big one, and I remember that. And I was just uh online connections during that time. Just whatever.
I wish
Yes.
Um,
I'd have been there for that. I missed that Sword and Shield scene. I got Sword and Shield late, or whichever one I got. I think I got
mhm.
Sword. And I think I got Sword because the wolf in it reminded me of that Dark Souls character, Sif. So I think I got Sword, but I still to this day haven't gotten like the dual pack. But I always wonder, like, maybe that would be the way to go to collect them all, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, everybody, we're going to get into ranking the starter Pokemon. Did you guys have any other information that you wanted to talk about for the history of Pokemon? Benjamin, did you have anything you want to add?
So, as I mentioned, I started off with the anime or the show, and I pretty much kept with that all throughout. I had a very short period of time that I dropped off, but as they became available on more, media platforms, I started to, watch the ones that I've missed, and I've been continuing ever since. So I'm pretty much a regular when it comes to the TV shows. I'm also a regular when it comes to the movies. I'm also a regular when it comes to the mainline series, and I try to play as much of the spin-offs as possible. So I'm
Mhm.
really all invested. In the beginning of the trading card game, I did play that a bunch with people, but I did drop off that only because I didn't have a good group around me to play that too frequently. So it just wasn't something that I could continue because I really didn't have anybody to play. And collecting them for the art was very nice at the time, but it became very costly. So I said, I'm going to pause that and just focus on something else. So I've really been around the world, and I also have a really big collection of plush. I love official Pokemon plush. You might see that there's some up there. There's the starters that I put out, but I have probably a couple hundred of plushes right now. And I'm always about collecting more. So really, I'm definitely all wrapped up in this world. It's most people know me as the Pokemon guy. So
And before we get into the ranking, um, what is your number one Pokemon? Do you have a personal one? Cause like for me, I love Raichu. and the reason that I love Raichu is because of his tail design. That long tail with it looked like a kind of a hook or a
Lightning
spear.
bolt. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
it's so cool, and every time I see Raichu, I just get happy for it.
Oh,
Christian, did you have a favorite Pokemon or
Oh
one?
yeah. I have just I'm looking off to the side because I'm looking for the picture, but my favorite Pokemon is Chansey. My wife's
oh wow.
favorite Pokemon is Oddish. And for one of our anniversaries, she commissioned a very sweet piece of art from a local artist that's a Chansey watering an Oddish. And it's just
Oh,
it's an object of affection in our household, you know. So yeah, that's our favorites.
oh, Benjamin.
I love that. I love that. That's so cool. And first of all, I've never really heard many people choose Chansey as a favorite. So to me, you're a first.
Just a pleasant blob, you know? A pleasant
Yeah.
blob is my type of Pokemon.
If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/BossRushMedia, and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support.
Benjamin, did you have a favorite?
So, being someone who's been around this for so long, my favorite changes a lot. To be honest, I have lots of favorites, but I guess one consistent favorite would be the Meowth line, but not. I can't just say the normal Meowth because Meowth has done a bunch of changes throughout the generation. So I'm gonna have to group them all together. The 3 or technically 4 different versions of Meowth. We have Cantonian Meowth, we have Alolan Meowth, we have Galarian Meowth, and we have Gigantamax Meowth. So all of those are my favorite Pokemon, but then it starts to skew because I have a bunch of other favorites. But if we're gonna say one, it's gonna be the Meowth.
Benjamin, at the risk of taking us off track, I just need to check with you on something. As a Pokemon collector, way back when, this must have been the late 90s, my sister and I each got a little talking Pokemon toy. And mine was, I don't know, a Pikachu, and it just said Pikachu or something. But my sister got one that was Meowth. It was plastic, I remember. And it spoke in very rapid fire Japanese. Have you ever encountered this toy? And if so, do you have it?
I definitely don't have that, but
okay.
There was a talking one that I had that was a Togepi that would go side to side and say Togepi, like Togepi or whatever.
Yeah,
like
that might have been a more advanced one in the same line. Yeah, this was like they clearly hadn't localized it. They just dropped the Japanese toy into American markets. And my sister and I were just baffled by whatever the heck that Meowth was talking about.
Oh no, I would love to see it or at least research it somewhere, but no.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never read about it ever since. I just distinctly remember it from the late 90s. Who knows?
Oh wow. I did get a bunch of toys from that time, but when I was young, I don't think I kept everything at that point because I was just still young and, things kind of came and went. It was only when I got a little bit older and mature, I was like, no, I got to keep my stuff. So there is a small chance that I may have seen it, but I don't know what would have came of it. But no, I definitely don't totally remember that. I would love to see it though.
Yeah, really weird little artifact. If any listeners have it, write into the show, of course.
Yes. Well, everybody, we're gonna jump into the starters, and we're gonna start with our water types, from red and blue and gold and silver. We're gonna start with red and blue with Squirtle. He is a turtle, kind of with a bald head. He has a shell blue. And his evolutions are war turtle, where he kind of like he has this tail that look like waves and some wing ears, and then Blastoise, where his shells turn into like almost a tank and everything, and that's to blow out water. So we're gonna just start with Squirtle. What are your guys' thoughts by just looking at him? Benjamin, I'm gonna start with you. What do you think of Squirtle?
Squirtle is a strong choice. for Pokemon, but it's pretty simplistic, right? It literally is just a blue turtle. There's not too much to it, right? You can easily identify it as a water type Pokemon because of the color, and it kind of makes sense that turtles can be in water, so that all lines up. But it's cute. I think what kind of would put it above some others would be the anime, honestly, because most people probably remember Squirtle from the original anime and the Squirtle Squad, right? Squirtle had these sunglasses, especially the main one that Ash Ketchum ended up catching had triangular sunglasses as opposed to circular ones like his teammates did. And they were pranksters in the beginning. And then, of course, Ash does his magic. He saves something. He helps them out, and they turn and they become best friends with him. So most people really know Squirtle for that. And because of that, that does make him a little bit more iconic as a Pokemon, maybe in comparison to some others we're going to talk about later. But I still would kind of put him middle of the pack, if I would say, just by design and just being unique as a Pokemon itself. So do you want me to give my number right now of where I would put him? No?
No.
Okay.
We're going to do that all at that at the end.
Okay. Wonderful. Then that's what I have to say for that.
It's funny that you mentioned the anime because he had, I think, besides Pikachu in the anime, Squirtle had one of the most recognizable voice by saying Squirtle, Squirtle. He had that
deep, scratchy voice. Yeah. Squirtle. Yeah.
It's like Squirtle. Yes. And it was so amazing to hear that because you weren't thinking that Pokemon will talk in this in the series and everything, but they just say their Pokemon name for them to actually talk. And I thought Squirtle was cool because of the Squirtle Squad with him putting on the glasses and everything. And I think that really made him popular for some people because of his like a little bit roughness. He was a prankster, but when he was serious about stuff, he was always someone you could depend on and everything. So I like Squirtle, and I do love his evolutions. I think out of a lot of the water types that with Blastoise, is such a cool looking design and everything. And I know that he gets in trouble if you knock him over in his shell and everything. But I just think his outfit or his tanks and stuff remind me like an episode of G.I. Joe back in the 80s and stuff. So I'm just like, I love that artwork and that design. But as a Pokemon in the series, I think he's popular because of the anime, and so I would say that with him, and I love his evolution, so I'm gonna leave that right there. Christian, what are your thoughts about Squirtle?
If I may be so bold, I chose Squirtle before I saw the anime as my first Pokemon starter. So my affection for Squirtle is pre-television. That said, I may have partially chosen him because his evolution was on the box. So, I'm not going to go to bat too hard for this choice. But I tend to prefer the simpler Pokemon designs. And so the idea of being this kind of like cute turtle, I think appealed to me more than, Charmander or Bulbasaur, who were also obviously both appealing, but maybe not quite as simple. I didn't know what they evolved into at the time, I guess, but I will say in retrospect, Blastoise really reminds me of kind of like he's got sort of a Godzilla energy to him. You kind of get the impression that he could be dueling Godzilla in one of those old movies. So that's appealing too.
All right, Noel. Then we're going to move on to our next water type from Pokemon Gold and Silver, and that is Totodile. And his evolution is Croconaw. And his final evolution is Fur Alligator. Did I say that right, Benjamin?
Fur Alligator. You got it. You got it.
Yes. And so I gotta say, Totodile looks cute. He looks beautiful. I love his design, and I love how, and I think he was always biting something in the anime a lot. You know, he's there was something about him that makes me laugh and everything. And I just thought that like his starter artwork, it just made him such a great character. Now, I didn't choose him in Pokemon Gold and Silver. And the reason being is because I was telling Benjamin Christian before we started that I am grass type. I love being grass type. That's my character. And everything. But when I see him in the anime and when I seen him in the game, just the artwork, I really thought this is a well-designed character, and he's funny. Like he's cute, and when you see his other designs, he got this caveman look, and when he gets to his last evolution, he has this Godzilla complex to him. You know, the only thing I really wish I for fair alligator was that I wish his tail was longer and like a little bit more destructive. You know, like I would love to see him kind of like pick stuff up, because I think if you had him versus Charizard, it would be a bad toe. Not Charizard. Well, yeah, Charizard. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
it yeah,
Yeah.
it would be I feel like there would be what is it? Is it Conjo? Uh can I think of what the theme of the Godzilla movies are? Um but it would
Oh
be like
yeah.
it would be that kind of battle that I would love to see. So
Mhm.
that is my thoughts on Totodile. Christian, what are your thoughts on Totodile?
I love Totodile. Of the 6 starters that we're talking about in this episode, I think Totodile is my favorite. Um, and a lot of that just comes down to the fact that I like a cute little chump and croc. You know, like
Mhm.
again, I'm a simple man when it comes to Pokemon. Like the cuter the better. That said, the mitigating factor here is that I'm not thrilled about Totodile's evolutions. Like the other starters in Generation 2, Gold and Silver, I think evolve into sort of better final forms. So Totodile starts the race hot, but I think maybe doesn't quite finish it strong.
Okay. Benjamin, what are your thoughts of Totodile?
I think Total Dial is a great design, just like Christian said. It is simplistic as well, but that's not to its detriment at all. It is a fantastically designed Pokemon. The anime definitely brought some life
Mhm.
into the Pokemon. As you mentioned, he or it bit on everything, right? Always wanted to bite. I know I was just recapping some of these episodes and it was biting on Jessie's hair and it would stay stuck to her hair. And that's just a really funny part of it there. And it also was very energetic. And just the way that the official artwork is, you can see the energy in that
Mhm.
Pokemon. So that is a big draw factor. It's fun, energetic, and it has that playfulness that it wants to bite you, right? But I do agree with Christian that the evolutions really are where it falls short. I don't mind necessarily the middle evolution as far as most people do. People that do a ranking at all, they do not like the that it's so like round, I guess, and like you said, the caveman aesthetic or whatever they were going for. A lot of people just don't, I guess, relate to that or don't really like that way that it went. But for Alligator, on the other hand, I think it ends pretty strong. For Alligator is not a bad Pokemon at all, but it doesn't have anything very distinguished about it, right? It's
Mhm.
just a big alligator. So when you think of it that way, it's just like, it's cool, but it's not the best. So to me, it's kind of around that middle of the pack again that I was talking to you before. But I will say that I did choose this one when I played Pokemon Silver.
Same.
So yeah, it was just I think because I chose blue or because I was forced to choose blue, I kind of felt that I was a water type trainer myself. So I kind of felt like, okay, this is going to be my thing. I'm going to choose mainly water type. That changed later on, but in the beginning, at least, I kind of felt like I'm just going to choose the water types. Why not? So it was my starter of choice.
All right. So we're gonna jump into the fire Pokemon. And our first one is going to be from Red and Blue, Charmander. And Charmander, he's like this orange-looking dinosaur with a flame on his tail. He evolves to Charmeleon, where he kind of like starts getting a little bit of a horn. Not much of an evolution change besides his head, and his fire grows big. And when you get to Charizard, he's one of the well-known um, Pokemon from definitely from the anime and from on the cover of Red with his design. He's kind of like this fire dragon type with rings and with the fire. So I'm going to start with you, Benjamin. What do you think of Charmander?
Charmander is a fantastic Pokemon. And as anyone who follows Pokemon very closely and the rankings that Japan has actually just released and everything like that, Charizard always ranks very high. The whole line, I mean, I say Charizard, but obviously that relates to its first form too. So it's the whole line if you think of it that way. Just the whole line is strong. I mean, a lizard with a fire tail right there, you got a lot of people, right? And then it becomes, if you go to the anime and see how its progression went, the first time you meet Charmander, he's weak and he was abandoned, and then Ash gets him. You get to see all this fire behind him using flamethrower and then evolving and not responding to Ash and getting just a little bit more cocky. And then finally turning into Charizard, which is a dragon, but not a dragon type, which was always funny for most people. But I mean, honestly, Charizard was so iconic within the anime about not listening to Ash and then having that really one sincere moment, like on the beach or whatever. And then finally he listened to Ash. I mean, everybody knows Charizard. He's almost as iconic as Pikachu at this point. That's how iconic it is. And Pokemon knows this. I mean, even in Scarlet and Violet that we're playing right now, the first like major event that they had was a raid that you can get freaking Charizard, you know? So he wasn't in the base game, but they said, okay, people who are playing the game who are enjoying this, how about you do this really hard raid to get yourself a Charizard? And a lot of people did it because Charizard has that much impact. So my feelings towards Charizard and the whole line as a whole is very, very strong. It is an excellently designed Pokemon. It has a good concept. It is simplistic originally, but as it goes on, it's just, I can't see the franchise without it. So it's super iconic for me.
All right. Christian, your thoughts on Charmander?
So from the game perspective, one of the things that I really like about Charmander is that I recall most times when I go back to Gen 1, I pick Charmander as my starter because it's kind of the hard mode of the game.
Yes.
I didn't get far enough in the anime to get to where I don't think I even ever saw Charizard in the anime, so I must have been a really quick. I know, I was an early quitter. I don't know what I was up to, but yeah, I don't think I saw Charizard in the anime, but in the games, Charmander was the last one that I tried, and now pretty much anytime I go back to Gen 1 or golly, don't think less of me for this. I haven't played Let's Go yet. Oh, I was gonna say if I started Let's Go, maybe I'd try Charmander, but that gives you Eevee or Pikachu, doesn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. I'm not selling my Pokemon credentials here. But were I to go back to Fire Red or Leaf Green, I would probably start with Charmander just as to make it just a little bit more challenging, and I find that really engaging. But the trade-off to that is that Charizard is in some ways the most versatile of the Gen 1 final evolutions. I do think it would have been cool if it was a dragon type, like Dragon Fire, because there are so few dragon types in that generation. But I don't know. Whatever. It's pretty neat in the end, and I think Charmander is, if nothing else, very cute.
Well, with Charmander, because just like you guys said, like Charizard is like the Pokemon. That sold a lot of people on Red and the look of Pokemon. Charizard is just too sassy. I know he's cocky, but he's all the Pokemon Company made him sassy in the anime because it's always the one shot that I guess Ash is yelling at Charizard to do something. I think they were in a battle or something, and Charizard sits down and starts fixing his teeth and his nails, and Ash is yelling at them. Charizard turns around, his flamethrower on him because it's for comedic effect. It goes and yawns. And I'm just like, oh wow. And I think it wasn't until Charizard got his tail beat or something that he realized I need to listen to Ash and everything. Because you would think that because of you collecting the Pokemon with the ball, that they will always that they would listen to you and everything. And in the games, it got to a point where they wouldn't respond with their moves until they literally got to a certain point in the level, or you beat a gym member and stuff. And then like okay, this Pokemon at this level will follow you. With Charmander, just himself with the way that he looks, um yes, he does look basic, but I think he has a plush look to him. Like there's something about him that it's just like, oh, I got this cute plush look. But then when
You could hug that little guy, you know?
right,
Yeah.
but when you see him as a brand and merchandise, it's always his Charizard. It's always his Charizard form. So it's kind of weird on where to rank him at right now. But we still got more discussions to have. But I will say with Charmander, he is cute. But out of like the gold, I mean, out of the red and blue editions, I don't know. I think Charizard overshadows the actual starter version of him, of Charmander.
I
Um,
can see that.
Yeah.
you know. So we get into Gold and Silver, and we get Cyndaquil. His evolutions is Quilava and Typhlosion. Um, Christian, I'm gonna start with you on this one. What are your thoughts of Cyndaquil?
Cyndaquil is a Pokemon that I didn't have much affection for when Gold and Silver came out. And there's this interesting divide, I feel like, and maybe your series will kind of deal with this over time, but between the sprite-based games
Mhm.
and the polygonal games. So the sprite-based games, you've got these characters who are kind of still images. And that's certainly what I started with, obviously, when I came to the series. And then you get to the polygonal version, circa like X and Y in the 2010s. And Cyndaquil has just steadily risen up my affection meter as I've gotten into the polygonal games because I don't know, something about the sprite of Cyndaquil looked a little. It's like you can't see its eyes. It looks like a little. I guess it's supposed to be kind of like a miniature porcupine or something. But there are just certain Pokemon, and frankly, there are certain Pokemon that work better in the sprite form, but there are certain
Mhm.
Pokemon that work better in the polygonal form. And I think Cyndaquil is one of them. You just get a little bit more character out of the little guy. So nowadays, when I start a run on Gold and Silver or Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I choose Cyndaquil.
Okay. Benjamin, what did you think of Cyndaquil?
Well, it was very funny to hear Christian's take on the sprite art compared to the polygonal art of the Pokemon because I actually have the complete opposite view that you have there.
I can see
And I'll tell
that.
you
Yeah.
why. Yeah, so when you were saying that, I was actually pretty shocked. And the reason I say that is because one thing that they did really good, I feel, in the original artwork and the original games is that they always had that fire be present. So you could
Hmm.
always initially see the fire that it was supposed to replicate like a porcupine, like you just mentioned. And it looked really, really fun, really aggressive. But what they ended up doing with the polygonal art is that, and when they started to animate them, they tried to focus on the lore of the Pokemon more, which I understand because this Pokemon in the anime, in other aspects of their lore, does not have its fire always out. It can detract, it can have them inside, so you see it without it. So what they did
Right,
is
right.
have it more often without its fire than with its fire. But unfortunately, it loses some of its draw. as a Pokemon, in my opinion, without that fire being present. So that's what I have more of an issue with nowadays than before. Whereas when it's the sprite, I mean, it's there. Even when they started to animate their sprites to have a little bit of animation, like Crystal did, it would, flicker, but it would still stay on at the end of the animation. You know what I mean? So I think it definitely, in my opinion, works better with that fire being present. And I mean that throughout the entire line. I think this is a very strong line of Pokemon in this evolution. Quilava is wonderful. Typhlosion is also wonderful, but Typhlosion is only wonderful, in my opinion, when that fire is active. When the fire is not active, it really doesn't work for me. Even with their new version of Typhlosion for the Hisui region, which is talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus when it became a ghost type as well. Very cool design, but it doesn't work as well when the fire is not lit. So in my opinion, it is very strong when the fire is there, but not as strong when the fire is not. So
It does
that's the
kind of
best
feel
I'm
like
gonna.
that middle era, like Black and White, and Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where they're like the sprites but animated, might be kind of the best period for
I
this
agree.
Pokemon.
I agree. Actually, personally, I think out of the sprites, I mean, I think they hit the nail on the head by Black and White, and then Black 2 and White 2. I think that was the peak era of sprite work, and I would love to see a return to that, at least in one game or something, because it was fantastic.
Well, I'm probably gonna be a cop out of this. I love the name Cyndaquil and Quilava and Typhlosion. I actually, so there's something about Cyndaquil that is peaceful. Like he looks like your best friend in a sense. Like you want to cuddle up with him. Like even though he is a Pokemon and he will probably burn you, he looks like a pet that you just want to have around and everything. Um, yes, like the artwork for Quilava and Typhlosion is not the best, but their names are so good. And Cyndaquil, he's just like I love like excuse me about that. It sounds like a medicine name, but yet it's not. Like Advil or or something or
I never
Tylenol
thought
or
of it
something
that
like that.
way.
Me
Uh,
either.
yeah, and and I understand like the cinder is like for cinder, and when you think of cinder, you think of fire because anyone who played Killer Instinct, there's a character named Cinder that's designed with lava in it, and so you get this kind of name to it, Cyndaquil, and it's just like it's so fitting. Like it's such a cool name. And Typhlosion, it's just something that flows out of your mouth, and everything. Like I think if he had a little bit more design in the belly, like if he had like maybe um some kind of writing or or something in it to like fill his belly and something, I think he would be a more powerful looking uh starter for silver and gold or for the Pokemon series. So I do understand what you guys saying, but I love Cyndaquil. I love his design. I love his name. So where I will place him at, we're almost there, everybody. You'll see where he'll be at. So we're going to get into our final section, which is the grass type, and we're starting with red and blue with Bulbasaur. His evolutions is Ivysaur and Venusaur. Now, everybody knows I'm a grass type. I love Bulbasaur. Um, and I gotta say that I I I think I love his look, just his basic look, and I love Ivysaur too. Venusaur, I think he's when they have his I think it's when he have his vines out. He looks more powerful. He looks more deadly and everything. And um I like I said, I am I am a grass type, and I love that the evolution. It makes sense. He have this kind of this grass flower pod on his back, and then it sprouts into like a little bit of those leaves, those big tree leaves, and then you would think that it's about to go into a rose, but it opens up into like a tree, and I guess it has a crown on it. I never understood what the top part was or anything. Um, and it's funny because that little tree thing that's on his back is not used for kind of any moves or anything. Like I would love it to be like it would do something, like he was able to like grab an enemy with his vines and then beat him on the head with the tree thing, just keep pushing it to it and
Yeah,
stuff and then
yeah.
throwing it. Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. That'd be delightful.
So so Benjamin, what do you think of Bulbasaur?
Bulbasaur is amazing. And if anybody doesn't know, Bulbasaur is the first Pokemon in the entire Pokedex. Its number is 001. So I would love to put that out there because I don't know how many people know that, but that's makes it iconic just as it is, just in its number in itself, right? Bulbasaur, I think, suffers from, if I'm looking at the game aspect, I think its design is not great. I what I did is I looked at the design, how they looked in the game. I have a reference sheet that I reference here, and I think how it looked in the original games of Red and Blue was kind of ugly, to be honest, especially when you were using it yourself. If you were to encounter it, that artwork of it looks nice, but the artwork of it looking at your opponent Pokemon looked weird, and the eyes made it kind of look like an alien.
It's very
did
blobby.
not work.
It's very abstract. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not clear.
It's not a good design for the first thing, and that's probably just due to the limitations of the hardware. Let's be real. But when it came to Silver and Gold, they did drastically change its design, and it started to get that cuteness that we all are familiar with. But if you look at it by the artwork, it looks almost completely different from the first one, a little bit different from the second one, and it has those cute features that you really like. I love the bulb. I love that it evolves into a rose and then whatever heck it turns into. But I think it's a really, really nice design to kind of indicate the stages of evolution, which I think makes sense as to why it's number one. You see a bulb, you see a flower, and then you see a bigger or more dramatic flower, right? So you understand the stages that it goes through. The only thing for me, for the game, that holds its back is the poison typing, because majority of the grass types within the game at that point were grass and poison. There was like maybe one or two, and I think that was one of them was Tangela, I know. And grass types are notorious for having a lot of weaknesses, if you know about type matches up. And then you had the original game, Psychic was such a strong type. I think it was the strongest type in the entire game at that point.
Yeah.
So you had a starter that was weak to one of the strongest Pokemon in the game at that point. So it was kind of hard to use in that aspect. Yes, it worked great for your first two gym leaders, right? For Brock, which is rock, and Misty, which was water. But after that, it kind of falls off. It doesn't have the staying power as other ones. As far as it in the anime, I think it is amazing in the anime. As far as when it first was introduced was Bulbasaur in the Hidden Village, it was a protector of all these weak Pokemon. It was so stubborn and so strong. And the fact that it never wanted to evolve for Ash either, it was an amazing Pokemon there. Using Solar Beam from its little top of its bulb was amazing. I loved the design in the anime. So I think from an anime perspective, it's very top tier. From a game perspective, the first two games, I think it's unfortunately towards the bottom.
Okay. It's funny that you mentioned Tangela. I always just like every time I see Tangela, I think of jazzercise. I think of workout outfits. Cause didn't Tangela
Really?
cause didn't Tangela have like shoes, like workout shoes or something?
It does have red shoes.
It's the
yeah.
Jane Fonda of Pokemon.
Yeah, it really is. If you look at him, something about Tangela just like, why are you going to go work out? That's the impression that I got from Tangela.
I've never thought of that, but I won't be able to not see it now.
like go just like watch Tangela in episodes and then put on Let's Get Physical by Olivia John Newton and see And I bet you would be like, okay, I get it now.
Man, you have made my
That is
night with
something.
that.
Christian, what is your thought of Bulbasaur?
Bulbasaur's fine. Bulbasaur was always kind of the weak link in the first generation for me, and it's not, it's not Bulbasaur's fault. I think Bulbasaur is very cute. But I tended to go with Squirtle for the like my knee-jerk reaction and Charmander for the tough mode. So Bulbasaur just kind of fell by the wayside. And the funny thing is, Benjamin, because I had been thinking that Bulbasaur was like the easy mode of Red and Blue, but as you've pointed out, it's something of a trick, right? Like it initially seems like the easy mode, and I always assumed that it was. But once you get to like the 5th gym leader, once you get to Sabrina and the psychic types and so forth, you're really kind of up the creek.
Yes, absolutely right. It's very hard to use that one completely through a playthrough. You usually have to box it for a while. I mean, if you're really stubborn and you get it to level 100, well, yeah, you can probably do a lot of things, but it takes a lot of work. And the payoff is not that great. We were talking about a little bit earlier, Ed and I, about the grass types did have one thing to help balance them for being such a weak Pokemon in general. I'm sorry, weak type, or a type that's weak against most things, is that they had the ability to heal. So in that sense, if you thought that may have been why you might have thought it was an easy mode, because they had a healing option. They always had like a Mega Drain or a Giga Drain or something like that to help them heal, to offset the fact that they were weak to so much.
Yeah, and healing is so rare in those games.
Yeah, and I think about it, because Charmander was like the hard version, because you was going to get your tail beat if you did not collect a lot of Pokemon for the first 2 gyms. But as the game progressed longer, you was able to destroy gym leaders with Charizard and Charmander and stuff. So I guess
it's kind of slow burn.
Yes. So, but I guess that was teaching people, Pokemon is about collecting different types. And when you work with that different Pokemon and get them evolved and take it to the right gym and know what the weakness is, and you know what you're doing, you will actually make sure that you can get through a gym easier. But sometimes that when you have to find not that final gym leader, when you at that gym leader for that particular place, you're going to be fighting 4 of that Pokemon, but they may not all be that same element that gym is. You won't really fight that element till you got to that last Pokemon. And if that last Pokemon wiped out your most powerful person and you did not come prepared, you was going to be doing that whole battle again. And don't forget, everybody, if you lost in Pokemon, you would have to start over with that battle, and you lost money.
50%, I think, right?
Yep, it did it did the Dragon Quest design with it. But we're going to get into the final grass type, and this is Chikorita. It is kind of like a grass with little nails around its neck and this big leaf around his head. It evolved into Bayleaf, which was kind of like he has a dinosaur look to him, with evolved leaf and some leaves around his neck. And then his last form was
Meganium.
Meganium, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Meganium, where he has this big pink flower around his neck, and then 2 vines going up in his head and everything. Short tail, so he has more of a dinosaur look to him. I'm not feeling Chikorita at all.
What?
But you're a grass type trainer.
I am a grass type trainer. I picked Chikorita. I will say this. I think I like his Bayleaf design better. For it. There was something about Chikorita, I think it's because I was jealous of Totodil's design in Gold and Silver. Like he just he just had a better design, and Cyndaquil. I think they just had a better design than Chikorita. And I will say, I think when you get further along into the Pokemon series with grass starters, they were designed better. They had a little more meaning. This one, I wasn't feeling. I think it's just trying to be too cute. When I seen it, and I think I only just picked it because it was grass, and I had no other choice. Um, but I like Bayleaf. I love his design better than Chikorita's. But yeah, I'm not feeling this design out of all of them. So, um, Christian, thoughts?
I think this is maybe unique among the 6 starters of Pokemon Red, Blue, Gold, and Silver in that it
Mhm.
gets better as it evolves. Chikorita, like I never picked Chikorita when I was younger, and then I finally came back to the game when I was a bit older and picked Chikorita, and it evolved into Meganium, and I really like Meganium, and Meganium is just delightful in what is that new Pokemon Snap? You get a whole like level devoted to it. It's got this it's almost like Loch Ness by way of 1980s anime. Like
Ooh,
it's
okay.
got this kind of like cryptid design that's very pleasant. What am I thinking of? I think of the movie Serendipity, which I don't know. That was its English title name, and I watched it a lot as a kid. I haven't seen it since I was an adult, so I'm sure it's rough. But Meganium reminds me of that, and I don't know. I find Meganium really engaging as like a final evolution,
Yeah.
especially as the Pokemon series has gone more in the direction of what would you call it, like anthropomorphized evolutions. I like that Meganium ends up looking like a gigantic monster. So Chikorita
Mhm.
has kind of steadily risen in my rankings over time.
Okay. Benjamin, you have the final say. What are your thoughts of Chikorita?
Chikorita is garbage. Total garbage. It is a horrible design. It looks like a pear, I guess. I really what could have saved this because its evolutions look more dinosaur-like, like a brontosaurus kind of, right?
Hmm.
Is if Chikorita itself looked more like a brontosaurus or something like that. The way that its head and neck are all one, kind of like a pear head, is horrible. I will say that in the anime, it's a little better. They give it a little sass, a little spunk, a little like it's trying to prove itself throughout the anime, um, which I think it's cool. It has a great cry of its name, like Chikorita, how it says its name. Chica! I love that. Love that.
Yes.
It's awesome. But its design as a whole is weird. And in the beginning, they also had a complex of its coloring because I'm looking at the artwork again for the games. Whereas the original game, its leaf was green and its body was like a yellow or a shade of yellow. Whereas its
Yes.
final design, its leaf is a dark green and its body is a light green. So they totally changed its Pokemon from what its color was. Like I said, had an identity crisis. I do agree with you guys that it does get better as it evolves. However, I don't think Meganium is great either. I think that its best design is Bayleaf. Bayleaf is a perfect design for that Pokemon. It looks like a monster. It looks like a dinosaur. It looks like a Pokemon. It has a great design. And then the anime further stepped that up because its personality throughout the anime was that it was totally in love with Ash Ketchum. It was like the most snuggly. It would bulldoze him and like give him love and rub its little leaf on him all the time. It was an amazing Pokemon, right?
Hmm.
And I think like that the little spikes were around the neck of Chikorita turned into a little bit like a curled up leaf all around. It's again perfect design. I think they could have pushed it further when it went to Meganium. I do think that you were correct, Christian, in the new Pokemon Snap. I think that's when it looks the best. Maybe it's just because seeing it in that type of art style that they used for that, and in the one area that you're able to see it glow, right? I think it
Everything
looks
looks better in new Pokemon Snap. Like all of the
right.
Pokemon look better there.
Yeah, so I think it did gain a little bit more, but all in all, I think the best thing out of this line is Bailey's. So as a line as a whole, or just looking at Chikorita, it's at the bottom for me. It's not a good design whatsoever. They should have made some tweaks to make it better.
All right. Well, everybody, you know what time it is. Let's get into ranking these Pokemon. So when we get into the ranking of red and blue, go to silver. We're going to start with number 6 and go all the way to 1. Um, I I think what I'm going to do for the way that this goes is that Christian, you're going to be the first. I'll go second, and Benjamin, you're going to go third. For it, because the Pokemon, I feel like the Pokemon expert will have the final say to see who it is. If our ranking is good or how things will go. We tie it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So, Christian, who is your number 6?
Bulbasaur.
Oh, okay. Bulbasaur.
It pains me, but it's Bulbasaur. All 6 are great options, right? But somebody needs to be number 6.
All right. I'm sorry. I don't think it's Bulbasaur. I'm going with Chikorita. I think the design is poor, and I think Bayleaf is a better design of it. So I'm putting Chikorita at 6. Benjamin,
I think you knew what mine was going to be based on how I started when I talked about it. Yeah, it's definitely number 6 for me is Chikorita. It's just not a great design. It doesn't do what they wanted it to do, I think. Like you said, they perfected it when it came to Bayleaf, but if people were choosing them, looking at them all together, I don't see what is appealing about that Pokemon. So that one's number 6 for me.
Okay, so Chikorita is number 6. Christian, who is number 5? So Bulbasaur is still in the running. So who will be your number 5 then?
Well, Chikorita is not coming out ahead in this contest because Chikorita was number 5 for me. I really like Chikorita, and I think part of that is my affection for its evolutions. But it still couldn't quite muster higher than a 5 ranking.
Okay.
Sorry, buddy.
I am actually going to go with Squirtle as number 5. I think, like you guys
Ed,
said,
you're breaking my heart.
He's a great basic looking Pokemon. I know that he looks good and everything, and he got the sass and he got the great design, but he's nothing to me when it comes to Pokemon, and so I got Squirtle as number 5. Benjamin, who would you choose?
I chose Totodile as number 5. And that's simply because Totodile is another basic design that they could have done something to push it a little bit further, I think, as well. I do think it's saved by the anime, but if people are going to be playing the games, they may not be looking at the anime for reference. So it is great because it's energetic and the whole biting thing, but you can't really notice that by the original art. By the more later art, you can kind of do that, but I think it's just too basic, right? And then if I factor in also the evolutions, especially the middle one, which was a kind of a fail, and the last one just being so basic as well. So going from a basic to a fail to a basic design, yeah, I can't rank it any higher. So number 5 is Totodile.
Okay, so we all got 3 different rankings. We have to agree on one of them. So Christian, you are going to be the kind of deciding factor because we already got Chikorita as number 6. So it's going to be between Squirtle or Totodile. So you have the final say between those two.
Do I just get to choose, or is this our number 4 ranking? I have to choose between Squirtle and Totodile because
for number 5.
So full disclosure, I don't know if this will pull this up. I don't know what kind of complex algorithm you use for your ranking here, but Squirtle is my number one.
So
Ooh.
then, so you choose Totodile as number 5.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Okay.
Totodile comes in number 5.
Totodile is number 5.
Sorry, Totes.
Okay. We go to number 4. Christian, what is number 4 for you?
Number 4 for me was Totodile, so it really does feel appropriate that it ends up at number 5 total.
Okay. I am actually going to put Cyndaquil. No, not Cyndaquil. I'm sorry. I'm going to actually put Charmander as number 4. I think Charmander is a little basic in with his design, and I think we spoke more of Charizard than we spoke of him as a starter. And even Nintendo and the Pokemon Company kind of merchandised him as or promoted him more as Charizard than Charmander. So I think I got Charmander at number 4. Benjamin, what is your number 4? What would you put as number 4?
My number 4 was Squirtle.
Ah,
Yes, and it's really the same as what happened with with Totodile. It's just too basic. I mean, the reason I ranked it this high is because of the Generation 1 bias, really. For people like me who's, love Generation 1, will always remember everything about Generation 1. I do think that it has some cuteness to it. I think, again, the anime really helped this Pokemon a lot pull itself up to number 4 for me because of the Squirtle Squad, its personality there. But as a Pokemon itself, it literally is just a blue turtle. So it's nothing special. So for me, number 4.
Yeah, if we were considering later generations, Squirtle wouldn't quite crack as high a number for me.
Okay. So I guess I think I'm gonna put Squirtle as number 4. I can deal with Squirtle being at 4. I have no problem with that. That good with you guys?
Go with me.
We got Squirtle. We got Squirtle at number 4. All right, Christian. We're in the top 3. Who do you think should be as a third? Now, just to remind everybody, we got Chikorita at 6, we got Totodile at 5, and we got Squirtle at 4. So at this point, we got 2 fire and 1 grass.
Is Bulbasaur still in the running? I guess I was the only person who rated Bulbasaur at the bottom, eh?
Yes,
that's all right.
He's still in the running, yes.
That's all right.
Yes.
That's all right. I'm the odd man out. Number 3 here is Charmander for me.
Okay.
I know it was a toss up between Charmander and Cyndaquil, but Charmander gets the step down.
I could agree with that. I'll go with Charmander for number 3. Benjamin, what you think?
I chose Bulbasaur as number 3. And I chose that because of the things that I mentioned to you earlier. Its original design was just not good for the first generation of games, so I think that was very off-putting. The fact that it didn't last in a playthrough because of its weaknesses, and it being the best type in the game was super effective against it, not great either. So that's why I put it as number 3. But it's just so iconic, so I couldn't put it lower in my opinion. Being the number 1 Pokemon, being that it's gotten better over the years with the different arts and stuff like that, and all the different, they gave it a Mega Evolution and they gave it a Gigantamax form. I mean, this Pokemon got some love and it's been doing some good stuff. So,
okay, well, me and Christian voted for Charmander, so Charmander is number 3. So we had number 2. So now we have between Bulbasaur and Cyndaquil. Christian, where would you go?
Cyndaquil for me. Cyndaquil is my choice for number 2 here. And my number 1, well, I guess I shouldn't spoil it. I think I spoiled it earlier in the show, but yeah, Cyndaquil will be number 2 for me.
I'm actually gonna say Bulbasaur as number 2. I I I do like his look and everything. It is consistent, but like he's a great one. But I think I gave my reasons for Cyndaquil on why I put him higher. So Bulbasaur I will put as 2. Benjamin, what would you put as 2?
I actually did
Between
have Cyndaquil as number 2. Yeah. And I just think that its fire, sprite work was so good. I
Mhm.
think that probably most boys, honestly, when they were playing Pokemon, saw this little mouse type, porcupine thing with a flaming back and said, "That's cool. I want that. That's cool." So I think because of that, I couldn't put it any lower. It's just a cool Pokemon design when it has its fire.
Mhm.
So 2 is what I put.
So what did you say, Christian? Which one? You said
Oh,
Bulbasaur?
for number 2,
Yeah.
Cyndaquil was my number 2.
Okay, so Cyndaquil number 2, which makes Bulbasaur our top pick.
Fair enough.
Uh,
He came by it honestly. They're all great. They're all winners in my book.
They are
yeah.
all good in different ways. Absolutely.
So, well, okay. So I will say this. Go ahead and if you guys already have your personal ranking list, go ahead and read them off. Go ahead, Christian. What is your personal ranking of them?
Oh yeah, my personal ranking of these, I wrote it on a piece of correspondence that I received. The back of it, my personal list is number 1, Squirtle. Number 2, Cyndaquil. Number 3, Charmander. Number 4, Totodile. Number 5, Chikorita. Number 6, Bulbasaur.
All right. And Benjamin, what is your personal ranking of them?
My personal ranking was number 1, Charmander. Number 2, Cyndaquil. Number 3, Bulbasaur. Number 4, Squirtle. Number 5, Totodile. And number 6, Chikorita.
Okay. I don't have a personal one because I had to do the ranking, nothing to think of it. Or anything. But
Just flying by the seat of your pants, Ed.
I will say that I feel like Cyndaquil is number 1 because of its design. Um, Bulbasaur would be number 2 because of just of the design. Totodile would be number 3 because I like the name. And I kind of like his design too. Squirtle would be number 4 because I love Blastoise design. 5 would be Charmander. Because he's very sassy and stuff. And number 6 is still Chikorita. I just do not like that design at all on him. So yeah, that would be mine if I had to have my personal. But everybody, we have number 6 as Chikorita, number 5 Totodile, number 4 Squirtle, 3 Charmander, 2 Cyndaquil, and number 1 Bulbasaur. That is our starter ranking for Pokemon Red, Blue, Gold, and Silver. Now I gotta ask you guys, because we have the Game Boy Advance ones. Um, how do you think the rest of the rankings would go out of that?
That's a good question. So in the Game Boy Advance ones, wow. Whew, I would have to look at, I think I would have to do a little bit more research again with them because again, I watched a lot of the anime. My
Mhm.
thing is collectively through the anime, through the movies, and through the games. all together in order to make a best decision. So off the cuff right now, I don't know if I could really say. I would have to kind of look at them all together and say, and kind of remember where I was at that time, because, you know, when I see the anime, it takes me to a specific point in time in my life. And that might play a factor as well. You know, everybody has nostalgia. All has our rose-colored glasses from time to time. So that might even play a role. So that one's going to be pretty hard for me to say, at least for right now. So we'll have to come back for that from me.
Okay. Christian, any thoughts?
Don't think less of me, but I'm trying to remember what the starters from the third generation are. It's Mudkip. Is it Trico?
Trico.
Yeah. And
Torchic, I believe, right? Yeah.
Gosh, that's a good group of folks.
I would have to take a look at it myself.
I know. I think Mudkip is going to take first place because Mudkip is a delight, and it's a good like 1-2 punch type combination. Like water and ground is a good combo. Torchic because it's cute, and Trico is Trico. So I'm going to go with Mudkip, Torchic, Trico.
We're ready. When we come back, we'll see what that ranking is. And I want to thank my guests, Benjamin and Christian. Christian, where can they find you at?
Folks can find me online at franchise_fest. They can find our podcast at franchisefestivalpodcast.com. And we're just starting. Well, actually, I don't know when this episode will go live, but as of February 2023, we're starting season 3 with Bastion by Supergiant Games. So please join in. The podcast is Franchise Festival.
Yes. And Benjamin, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. That's where I kind of live. My Twitter handle is Aki0. It's half of my first name and 0, which was my favorite Mega Man character from Mega Man X series. So it's AQUIZERO.
I'm not ready to do a rank Mega Man series. Cause
can we do that though? Because if we could discuss Mega Man, I would be all in.
We could rank Mega Man in the future. Because we have 11 games to choose from and everything. And I know 2 and 3 is going to be the battle out of all games. I writing a Boss Rush banner, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, we do not have a Mega Man 2 versus 3 discussion in modern games. And I wonder
that'd be great.
Why, you know. But you guys can find me on Twitter at ThatBretcherCode and on Instagram. You can check more of Boss Rush Media on bossrush.net. Check us out on our YouTube at Boss Rush Media. Check out Nintendo Power Block, which I host, and Expansion Pass, and more on Boss Rush Media. Join us on our Discord. And yes, that is going to be part 1 of the Pokemon edition of Ranking Nintendo. We have the GBA games, the DS games, the 3DS games, and we have the Nintendo Switch. With that, everybody, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on Ranking Nintendo. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Nintendo Expansion Pass is part of Nintendo Power Block and is a product of Boss Rush Media LLC. The show is recorded from our headquarters in Akron, Ohio, and is hosted by me, Edward Varnell. My co-host is Corey Derrick. You can find Corey at I Am Corey in HD on Twitter and Instagram, as well as hosting the Boss Rush Podcast and Tower Casuals, the Destiny Podcast. Follow Expansion Pass as part of Nintendo Power Block and on all social media platforms at Power Block Podcast. You can also follow Boss Rush Media and Boss Rush Network on all major social media platforms. Join the Boss Rush Network Discord and Facebook groups to interact with other friends and fans. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.